Bum-ba-da-dum. Howdy, y'all. Welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. Great mandolin lesson for you today for a couple big reasons. One is we're going to dissect the tune Soldier's Joy from a beginner's approach. I want to look at the notes that really make Soldier's Joy that particular melody. And we want to work on learning that by ear. And then I will have some variations for you to try as we progress. Also, just from a mandolin's point of view, if you're just getting into flat picking mandolin and picking fiddle tunes, you want to get those tunes learned, this is a perfect one to do that for a couple reasons. One is it's got a lot of low-hanging fruit in it, so you're going to be able to learn it pretty quick, even if you first started playing. But also, this is a song that comes up a lot in jams, whether that be bluegrass or old time. And it's also just a fun one to sit around and play by yourself. The song's been around for a long time for a reason. So if you're watching here at BanjoBenClark.com as a Gold Pick member, make sure and download the tabs that I do have for you, as well as all the jam tracks that you can practice along with. If you're watching somewhere else, I'd be honored to have you on board as a Gold Pick member. Let's dive into Soldier's Joy. First things first, let's just do an overview of the tune. I want you to understand what Soldier's Joy is, the key, the form, all those things, and some particular trends in the melody that's going to help us play the song by ear and build better arrangements and variations in the future. Like I said, first things first, we are in the key of D on this song. The first couple measures you see there are built into my tab as just tempo establishers, and when you download the TEF file, you can see how that's used. But in measure 3, we see 2 measures of just playing the D string over and over again. That's called a potato, and we use those a lot of times at the start of fiddle tunes. I put an E on the end of that, didn't I? Those of you who've been around long enough will get that joke. But this is used to establish the tempo of the song and the groove. If you want to learn more about that, you can search for potatoes on the site. But when we to get into the actual melody of the tune, that starts in measure 5. And you'll see it labeled here as first A part. Most fiddle tunes are divided up into A parts and B parts. And just like in a poem or in a song that you sing where you have a verse and a chorus, this is a way for us to talk about a couple different parts of the tune that will have different melodies, most all the time, and sometimes different chord progressions, often, just like this one does. But even more than that, the A part and the B part will often be repeated. And so that the form looks like this, A, B, B. And that's usually what we consider a solo length. So if you're playing this in a group and the solo's getting passed along, each one of the pickers will play an A, B, B. Well, how long is that A part? Well, the A part is 8 measures long. It's going to start right here, and it's going to go to there, okay? And then you see, we have labeled down here, the second A part, which will also be another 8 measures long. So why do I have both A parts tabbed out here if they're the same thing? We're just repeating them. Because I like to give you the first time through a super basic melody, and then the second time through the A part, we're going to build on it just a little bit. Nothing too hard, but just a little bit so you can see how we fill in some of the holes. And I want you to notice something at even more of a micro level just to see some of this low-hanging fruit that I mentioned. Look here at the first A part. You see what this melody does? It repeats A, F sharp, and then it does it again a measure later, and then it even does it again here. So 3 times in one A part, we're going to be playing the same lick, the same notes. So there's not a whole lot of variety to Soldier's Joy. It's why a lot of people play it super fast, because it's one of those that you can rip off once you get it, because there's not tons of technical things going on. When we get into the second A part, we've got that same bum, 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 but we're just going to fill it out a bit more, play it more like we would hear a fiddle player play it. Now, once we get into the B parts, the chord progression does change, and you can see that when the chords that are labeled here, and the melody goes up. So we're going to hang out on the E string for most of the time. When we get to the second B part, again, same melody, just a slightly different variation, which mainly means we'll have some more eighth notes thrown in there, some more alternate picking. That's down, up, down, up. Finally, I give you a 4-bar ending with this one, which is a standard fiddle tune ending that you would play in lots of real-life situations, and we'll talk about learning that as well. And then, once we learn this A part and B parts and the ending, we're going to play it together very slowly, and we'll put the tab on the screen However, we are going to talk a lot about playing this song by ear because that's mainly how we need to ingest this song, as with all the lessons. Tab is just a tool to help me and you communicate. Okay, let's check out the A parts now. Let's now learn the A parts to Soldier's Joy now that we know a bit about what we're going to be playing when it comes to this fiddle tune. As we pull the tab up there, remember the first couple measures are just something that's used in the TEF tab files as a metronome. You want to be sure and check those out if you haven't before. And then we got those potatoes. And if you've never seen those before, you can pause and go watch my potatoes lesson. But again, those are just used to help establish the tempo of the song. So if you were going to be the one to kick this song off, we hear fiddles do this all the time. You've heard this, right? Okay, that's just to let everybody else that's playing know when to come in and also what the tempo of the song is. So this is very basic potatoes. It's just the D string. I want you to pay attention if you're not used, if you're just getting into mandolin playing, pay attention to my mandolin pick stroke arrows that are beneath each one of the notes. So those potatoes sound like this. And then we get into the actual tune. So it's just important to note that if you were playing this in a jam and it was being passed around to you, you obviously wouldn't play the potatoes if the solo's coming straight to you. You only play the potatoes if you're playing it by yourself or if you're the one that's actually kicking the song off, playing the first solo. So let's get into the first A part. And before we even pull the tab up there, let's hold the tab. And I want us to just think about what the melody is doing. Because there are some anchor notes, is what I like to call them. Some notes that make a melody a melody. And with this particular song, they're quite obvious because it involves the third tone of the major scale. If that makes sense to you. If not, that's okay. But the melody is going to start on the A string, and it's going to drop down to the F sharp, which is the 4th fret on the D string. And it's going to do that 2 times in a row. So it's going to go. Now, as far as I know, Soldier's Joy is the only fiddle tune that starts out just like that. So it's very important if we're playing Soldier's Joy to play some version of that. And there's nothing wrong with playing it straight ahead and simple. And again, I said in the overview, we're going to do that several times in the A part. So it's very, very important. Now, after it does it a couple times, and then we're going to climb up to the root of the note, up to this D note here. So, and then it's going to drop down to here. So before you look at any tab and before you panic, and if you never learn anything by ear, that's okay. I just want you to watch me, maybe try to play along as I'll play the first line of the song and listen to the melody, let it sink in. Ready, go. So it'd be worth your time to just pause and be able to play those melody notes and be able to hear them and hum them in your head. Bum, 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 ba-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. That's the first part of Soldier's Joy. Now let's look and see what the tab looks like with that. Measures 5. I'll just play through that line. When we get to the next line, we got some of that low-hanging fruit because the first 2 measures are repetitive from what we've already played. Now, this is very important when we get into measure 11. Take your mind off the tab for just a moment and listen. We'll pull the tab down. Listen to this little lick because we're going to use this lick a lot in this song. I'm going to play a very basic version. Can you try playing that with me? 2nd fret, 5th fret, open, 4th fret, and then back to the 5th fret, which is the root. That's that D note. Okay, so every A part, there's 2 of them, right? And every B part, there's 2 of those. Every one of them is going to end with that lick. Now we're going to make it a bit more complex by adding in some notes in those empty spots. But the skeleton of that lick is this. We're going to do things like this. But do you hear how that's the same lick? I'm just putting some more scale notes around it. Okay, so let's look and see again what it looks like with tab in measure 11 there. Now the last two notes in measure 12 are just pickup notes to take us into the next A part. They're not necessary, but it helps carry the ear. And now as we get into the second A part, take a look at that tab, and can you pick out those really those notes, those anchor notes that we talked about Soldier's Joy having? What were they again? They were right here. They're there, right? They're there in measure 13. They're just there a little bit different. Let me show you what I've done. So typically when you hear a fiddle play this song and they kick it off, they will play this. Okay, so that little move, bum, 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 is also very standard with Soldier's Joy. I boiled it down to just those, focus notes, those anchor notes in the first A part. But now we're going to stretch out into more what a fiddle would play. This gets a little tricky though, because we're having to switch strings back and forth and it can be a finger twister. So take it slow. And here's what I'll say, that if you want to practice this song and this is a little too advanced, this second A part, you can always just go back and repeat that first A part and play that 2 times in a row before you go on to the B part. Or you can try your hand at this one. Let's take a look at it again. A little bit of a twister there. Measure 13 looks like this. So what I'd recommend you do, I remember having to play this for the first time, learning to play this, and I was like, whoa, that's tricky. Okay, so you can just press pause or keep your mandolin around you throughout the day and just practice over and over again. And if that's too much, think about what your pick hand's doing. Forget about the fret hand. Let's remove the 4th fret out of it. What's going on there? Well, we're playing 1 note on the A string and then 3 notes on the D string. And back. So it's this pattern, right? So we can even practice that. It's difficult because we're playing a downstroke on the A string and then we're having to come back up for an upstroke on the D string, and that gets a little tricky. And then after we get comfortable with that, we can start adding in that quick middle finger that has to get in there and get out over and over again, right? Try not to let that fly too high. Only pick it up far enough, only as far as you need. So that's that line. And as we finish out the B part, the second A part in measure 17, you'll notice that those first couple measures we've already learned. And then what do we have? Remember I said that one lick finishes out every A and B part? Well, here's a variation of that. Can you find the notes in there in measure 19 and 20? I can. They're all there, but we're just going to connect them with some of the scale notes from the D major scale. If that's too difficult for you, guess what you can do? You can substitute measures 7 and 8 in for those measures, and it will work just fine. Great. And that last note is just another pickup note to send us up high for the B part, because the B part's going to start an octave higher and hang out mostly on that first E string. Okay, are you good there? Let's learn this B part, and we'll learn the ending, and then we'll play it all the way through together slowly. Don't forget you have all those jam tracks here to learn at different, or to play along with at different speeds, and the tabs as well to help you. Don't forget to use your ear. Let's jump in. We get to the B part, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging, at least the first A part that we learned, because there was a lot of quarter notes in there, a lot of downstrokes. Here we're going to do some more scale runs. But let's think about with our ear first what this B part's going to sound like. It's going to go up to an F sharp. Remember we talked about this F sharp here? Well, there's another one up here. And that's kind of what the B part is centered around. And so it starts there just with a couple notes. And then it climbs up a little bit. And then does the same thing, but down on the E note. And then back to the F sharp. Then it repeats. And then you know what it does at the end, because we've already learned it. So all we've got to do is get that in our mind, and I've got some tab to help us, and then we'll come up with a variation of that, getting a little bit more complex in the second B part. Let's look there and measure 21. Follow along with me. It sounds like this. Okay. Next line, our next measure. Let me also tell you, in that measure, the second measure of the B parts, I have a G chord written there. In most old-time circles, they're going to go to an A chord there. So don't freak out. The melody stays the same. More modern bluegrass players, well, including Doc Watson, Tony Rice, those guys, go to a G chord there. So that's kind of the bluegrassy way to do it, and the old-timey way is to go to the A chord, but it doesn't matter to us when we're playing the melody. It would only matter if we're playing the chords, rhythm. So if you're in a group and something sounds wrong when you go to that G chord, know that they could be going to the A chord. Last two measures on that line, we have some repeating, don't we? Okay, so just take a moment away from the tab and think about and listen to what that melody does. Okay, so it's important that we picture and can hear and even hum back that melody to ourselves if we're really going to learn it. Next line, repeating. And then we've got a lick that we've already learned, and this is the basic version of it. Now we're going to go into a second B part where, just like with the A parts, we're going to step up the complexity just a little bit. And all that really means is adding in a few eighth notes from the D major scale here and there. And the first measure is going to sound like this. The melody's still there. We're just adding a few notes. Can you play that along with me? Next measure. Last measure. Next line, we have some repeating. And then the last two measures is a repeat of the last two measures of the second A part. See how we keep coming around? Okay, now let's look at the ending real quick, and then we'll play all this together very slowly. There's a standard fiddle tune ending that we've heard a lot. We call it like shaving a haircut. Okay, and so I'm going to give you a version of that. Those endings aren't standardized as far as what notes you play as for the ending, but the length and the chord progression for it is standardized there. So if I was playing this with a bunch of people that I didn't know and I haven't ever played with before, and somebody raises their leg and says they're going to play the ending, they would play an ending that is just this long, it's 4 measures long, with the same chords. And so it's just good to know. And then it's up to them. They have the freedom to play whatever they want to play in that. And I'm going to give you a version of that. We're going to keep it pretty simple and a fun one too. But measure 37 sounds like this. I'm just going to play you the whole ending so you can watch it. Slowly. The most difficult part is the very last measure, because we're having to play double stops, 2 strings at once. It's kind of a stretch, 2nd fret and 6th fret, but you need to be able to get that. So start practicing it now. And that's just an A chord double stop. And then for the last note of the song, we're going to slide both those up. The ring finger slides 1 fret up, but the index slides 2 frets up. So it's 4 and 7. And we'll play it, and it's okay if it goes through and hits that open A string or even the E string. So the measures ending sounds like this. And if I was playing this, especially if we were going up to speed, when we get to I wouldn't worry about just hitting the bottom 2 strings. I'm going to play through all my open strings, and it's going to sound just fine. Very cool. Okay, next video segment, we're going to start at the top and play all the way through very slowly. Let's do it. Let's play this tune all the way through very slowly. I'll have the tab on the screen there for you. Remember, you can control the speed of this playback by clicking on the little gear icon, speeding it up or slowing it down. And even better, you can download the jam tracks from the website here, as well as the tab files and the TEF files that allows your computer to play this at whatever tempo you want and do loops and all that cool stuff. All right, so I'm going to give us 2 measures to count in, and then we'll come in on those potatoes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ready, go. Well, howdy, y'all. I hope that you enjoyed that lesson for Soldier's Joy on the mandolin. That is a beginner lesson, and I have dozens more beginner lessons on the website at banjobenclark.com. But not only beginners, we also have intermediate, and I have a lot of advanced lessons too, with learning tracks that take you from lesson to lesson so you know what to do next. And not even only mandolin. We also have banjo and guitar, tons of special guests, things that you can learn from theory to tech tips and how to set up your instrument, the kind of gear that you need to get started, and the kind of advanced gear that you might think about later on. So if you're looking for a great place to learn, I'd be honored to have you on board over there at banjobenclark.com. If you join as a Gold Pick member, you get full access to all the lessons that I have there. And I've been putting up a lesson every week for like 13 years now. So there's over 750 lessons there on the site. Also, don't forget to go over to the forum and say hello, because I have an excellent, large, very helpful, loving community of folks there that enjoy pressing each other forward in their musical journey. So be sure and go over there and say hello. Ask any questions. I'm always there answering questions, as well as some other students that have become really, really great teachers in and of themselves too. So I'd be honored to have you as part of the community over there. And don't forget that you can also get a trial membership if you've never started one of those, and check out 3 of the premium lessons there to see if it's right for you. But hopefully you enjoyed this lesson and you'll be over on board as a Gold Pick member. If you haven't subscribed or clicked that little thumbs up button and the little bell icon, all the stuff that you know you're supposed to do, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, I'd be honored for you to do that as well. Happy picking with Soldier's Joy. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. You can use this one as you go forward with your mandolin journey as well. Adios.